Sorry, it's the afternoon at PNG, but it's 5 p.m. in Nigeria at this time. So I'm actually having this presentation at home. Um, my name is Ngwoke. Ifeanyi is my first name. I'm from Nigeria. Um, I have a background in public health and experience in monitoring and evaluation. And so today, just going to be talking around, quite about a number of topics. So today, primarily um, performance monitoring plan and evaluation is some other things because we need to talk about the design, monitoring and evaluation techniques. We need to talk about, we also need to talk about how to integrate M&E in project design. And also, it's just going to be an ongoing conversation. So you can actually raise hands if you have questions along the line, but it's going to be very short and insightful, and I just hope we learn together. So I'm going to start right away. So so first and foremost, it's where it all begins. In development work, everything we do, programs, projects, they are all captioned in the project life cycle. So from project design to planning the project, executing it, and deploying it. So for development professionals, like most of us that are on this call, we are very familiar with project initiation document. All of the some persons here should be familiar how they're experience with writing responding to RFP and RFA, engaging stakeholders, coming up with solutions to global challenges, designing the project, planning it, execution, and then closing it up. So if you look at it as from the project life cycle, you see that our project design, we identify problems, we establish the goals and objectives of the project, we talk about the cost, we list our assumptions and our rates, and then we just look at the problem, analyze the problem, enrich people and design. And then from there, we move on to identify the activities and the resources we need to execute the project, and then develop all the project documentations we need, and then you mobilize resources, you implement activities, you monitor and evaluate, and eventually you evaluate again, you complete the project documentation, audits, and then report. So one of the things you notice here is that monitoring and evaluation actually appears majorly on the project execution phase of the project lifecycle. And that's the major reason why I'm starting from this place, because one of the primary focus of this webinar is to talk about how to integrate M&E into the entire project design and entire project lifecycle. So if you take a look and then from some experience, as if monitoring evaluation happens during project execution, and many times monitoring evaluation takes place most of the time, except if you project that runs midline evaluations or process evaluation. Most evaluations are done at the end of the project or even after the project has been finished out. So, so it's very easy to conclude that monitoring in itself, like to say that monitoring and evaluation is a project execution function, and maybe evaluation is a project closeout function, and all. But that's not really the case. There's M&E professionals, there's a whole lot of things that happen in all the phases of the project management cycle that M&E comes in and then play an important role. So if you look at this diagram again, and then at the first stage is a project life cycle. So we just look at how projects are designed, planned, executed, and finished out. Now, if you look at it from a design, monitoring, and evaluation perspective, things begin to take shape. And then if some of us that are very experienced within the sector, maybe in M&E, we find some job opportunities whose job titles are design, monitoring, and evaluation, not just routine monitoring and evaluation officer. So you see design monitoring and evaluation manager officer. Well, this is because um, there's an evolution going on, things are quite changing, and then everyone is coming to the realization that monitoring and evaluation don't just happen during project execution and closeout. M&E professionals actually play a whole lot of role in design, in monitoring, in evaluation, and then there's a part of all of these that happen at every part, at every phase of the project life cycle. Now, for project design, you'll see that in those scenarios where you want to have a professional that comes in to do monitoring and evaluation and still participate in design, they are looking at BME techniques like need assessments. Most times, these need assessments can also come in like formative evaluations, where you want to actually, okay, you want to actually look at what is the problem within the community or within the space, what's happening, is there a need, and all of that. So problem analysis, what problem analysis, stakeholder analysis, who are the stakeholders here, the theory of change, logical framework approach, and even the baseline studies. Um, you don't use theory of change to monitor, neither do you the logical framework. So most times, these particular tools that many monitoring and evaluation professionals are familiar with are largely um, project design tools. Even though theory of change, logical framework, we see them as monitoring and evaluation tools, but they are largely project design tools because they find function when projects are designed. And we're going to look at the logical framework approach in this particular webinar. So when it comes to project planning, you're actually setting up your monitoring evaluation plan, and setting up your result framework and reporting structure, the performance monitoring plan that we'll look at in the webinar, the evaluation framework, all of that is done. At project execution, you begin to manage data. That's you collect data, you analyze data, you store data, you use data at that level. And then there is field monitoring. We didn't have some of them here. There is data quality assessments. During execution, you take post and reflect sections with effective to learning workshops, to write reports, to make presentation. All this happen during the project execution. And then during the closeout, we are actually designing studies, we are still managing data, we are learning, we are reporting, and then we are presenting. So the design monitoring evaluation techniques uh, uh, actually gives you a better perspective of how monitoring and evaluation is integrated into project design and into the entire project life cycle. So from design to close out, M&E professional finds has a role and then play very, very important function in the entire project life cycle. So this for many of us have to begin to think and see that M&E is not just the activities we do, the routine data collection, all of the field monitoring, the evaluations we do know. It begins with the project design, the research, the analysis, the theory of change design, all these things are part of the functions of monitoring and evaluation. And so this is a challenge to many of us that are here to maybe your workplace, maybe you don't participate in RFP, you don't participate when they respond to proposal, when they write grants, begin to ask for more participation in some of these in some of these opportunities because at that point too, you have a role to play. When the project is being planned, you have a role to play and all of that. So, and some of these things foster collaborations when you are very much involved. It fosters ownership. It fosters collaboration between the project monitoring, the monitoring and evaluation team and the project implementing team. But sometimes there are some professional friction between those teams, but when everybody is involved from design to planning to execution to close out, it's a teamwork and then that actually help. Now, so I want to talk about the monitoring and evaluation thinking, because many times for project managers, or let me say project teams, it's very straightforward. This is what we want to do. So what are the activities we are doing? When are we doing this activity? So project managers try to understand the project, set up a Gantt chart, get a budget, and begin to implement the project. But for the M&E person, it's different, because monitoring and evaluation allows you to see the project from beginning to end, even before it starts, because of the logic model. So for the M&E person, the logic model determines how we think, how we look at projects. You look at it from the point of the logic model. So everything has to connect. There must be an evidence supporting everything for the M&E person. For the project team, so sometimes they just want to go get it done. What are we doing? How to manage teams, manage budgets, how to manage timelines and get things done. But for the M&E person, you are thinking about how, you are thinking about the evidence that this can be done. Evidence, so we are thinking about everything from the standpoint of data, from the standpoint of evidence. Is this possible? Can this be done? How will this be done? And so I set up something to just explain this quickly. For example, a project, a program person, a core program person can just look at, I want to go to the market, then I'm going to shop, then I'm going to cook, and then everyone will be happy. So if you look at this description, it focuses more on the end goal, the objective, to make everyone happy, and then the activities they're going to go on. So going to the market, shopping, cooking, all of those are just activities, and then we achieve this. But this is not how the M&E person thinks. This is not M&E thinking. So for M&E thinking, you begin to ask the questions like, who is everyone? Where is everyone? When are you cooking? What are you cooking? How many dishes are you cooking? Which markets are you going to? What will you use? How do you know that they will be happy? Who are you? So the M&E person is thinking, M&E thinking brings logic into play, brings evidence into play. So you begin to see the theory of change that actually happens, the design of the theory of change that actually happens in project design gives an opportunity for us to begin to look at things from the causal pathway. What are we going to do that will lead to this? Okay, we want to go to the market. What do we need to go to the market? What market must we go to? All of those questions is what the logic model do. So um, when we talk about integrating M&E into the project design and into the project lifecycle, we're talking about thinking, the M&E thinking from the standpoint of data, thinking from the point of logic. So the TOC, the log frame, the result framework, the indicator performance tracking table, the performance management plan, all of those things actually come into, they define how we think in M&E. So because in M&E, nothing is done until it is documented. If it is not documented, it is not done. So there must be means of verification. When we go to the next slide, you see there must always be means of measurement, means of verification, because we are collecting data. Whatever you put out there as an M&E person, any report, any documentation must be supported by evidence. You must show evidence that there's a need, that there's a particular problem because of the data you've collected from different sources. We must show evidence that this particular solution or this particular project is going to solve this problem. There must be evidence. So there will always be links. The M&E person don't have the luxury of assumptions. Everything must have, there must be evidence supporting every step, every decision. So we don't have the luxury of assumptions, because we deal with data and then you want to have evidence-based report. So I'm going to talk about, if you recall, I talked about the logical framework approach among all the techniques, all the DME techniques that I use in design. So without need assessment is used for project design, problem analysis, stakeholder analysis, theory of change, the logical framework, even baseline studies are actually part of project design. But I want to talk now about, amongst all of them, about the logical framework approach. Now, when it comes to designing projects, this is one of the simple ways to quickly ensure that your project design is supported by evidence. This is the place where the M&E professional comes in to help the project design team look at things from the standpoint of logic. So you are looking at the impact of the project. What is the long-term objective? The change of state or improved situation, which the project is making a contribution. You're looking at the outcomes. These are the intervention logic, the outcomes. You're looking at the outputs. You're looking at activities, and then the indicators. How are we going to measure that we achieve the goal? How are we going to measure what is the signposts to us, to our achievement of the outcomes, output, and the activities, and then how are we going to verify that these indicators are how are we going to collect data to measure these indicators? So that the means of verification and the measurement method, and then the assumption and rate. So the logical framework approach comes with two logic, the vertical logic and the horizontal logic. So the vertical logic is very straightforward. If we do this, we will get this. So if we do these activities, we'll get this output. If we get this output, then we'll get this outcome. And then if we have these outcomes, eventually we're going to have achieve our goal. So the vertical logic is very direct. If it's an if-then thing. So if you do this, then we get that. Very straightforward. But the horizontal logic takes into cognizance the assumptions and the rate. So it's not enough to just go on with a logical or with a vertical logic when designing projects. We have to look at the horizontal logic. So if we do this and this holds true, then that will happen. So we are looking at if you do this and then this holds true. So for example, like the simple example I gave, going to the market to shop, it's like you say, if we go to the market and then the market is open, then we'll be able to shop. So it's not enough. You can go to the market and the market is closed for the day. You won't shop. So if you look at, if I go to the market, then I will shop. That's the vertical logic. If I get to the market, then I will shop. But there are assumptions. You are assuming that you will get to the market. You are assuming that the market will be open. You are assuming that the market will have a shop. You are assuming that the market will have what you want to purchase. So you have to think through the horizontal logic too. If we get this done and this holds true, if we do this and this holds true, then we get that. So you have to think through both the logical, the vertical logic and the horizontal logic. So when we design projects, the project design as an M&E person, when we come to support project design, we look at things from just we go beyond just looking at it from the vertical logic of activities to outcome to impact to we begin to look at the assumptions that we reach. For example, we are working on a project, let me say, like for World Vision, do some project on tuberculosis. I'm going to take water, sanitation and hygiene. And then in a project like that, you plan to actually, and say something like, if you put in boreholes, if there are boreholes here, then the community members will stop going to the stream. There could be other assumptions, like you have a borehole there in the community, and then being around, let's say, for example, in the community where parents are able to have some conversations or do some things when their kids go to the school to get water. Bringing a borehole and stopping those kids to get water has already caused a social disruption or a cultural disruption in that community. So during your need assessment and all of that, you are checking what are the assumptions, what are the risks, so it helps you to plan and design your project in a way that not just your ideation coming to pass, but then the other factors within the community, within the project that could actually affect you implementing that project. So we are looking at the assumption. So any assumption that doesn't go through, you look at the risks. What is the risks in this assumption? If I go to the market and what if the shops are locked? That's a risk. I get to the market, but the shops are locked. So possibly you design the project to have two different markets. So if I go to market A and the shops are locked, then I can quickly go to market B and still get what I'm looking for. So your assumptions help you to design a risk analysis, to do some risk matrix, and then plan mitigation for anything that could actually affect your project. So this is an example of a wash project. It's not perfect. I just want to use it as an opportunity to just let us have some practical, see some practice, some practical examples with all that have been saying for some time now. So assuming we have a wash project where we want to have reduced incidence of waterborne diseases among caregivers. So talking about mothers and nannies and all. And that was the goal of the project. So how we're going to measure this is, okay, the percentage decrease in the incidence rate of water. So for example, if there's a 70% incident rate, we want to see it reduced to 40 and more. So what are the means of verifying that our project is achieving this goal? We'll collect clinical records and check with clinical records. Okay, how many persons have reported to the municipal hospitals or the clinics in the last 1 month or in the last 1 year since we started implementing our program with waterborne diseases? So those records, we can do a time series analysis to see what it was before we started and what is it now. And then we can see if we're actually achieving decrease or increase. So for the outcomes, for example, there should be more outcomes here, but just for this, for us to achieve this goal, we're actually thinking that, okay, we have to improve access to adequate water supply. So we want to also improve hand washing practices. So there's many indicators that could actually measure these outcomes I just listed to. So the percent of caregivers who indicate water access now meets their household consumption need, percentage of caregivers who don't need to travel beyond maybe 500 meters or beyond 100 meters to get water. Some of those are the kind of indicators. You always come up with a number of indicators. So for the second outcome, like maybe percent of caregivers that self-reported increased hand washing at physical time. And then maybe there are soap, you have soap at your hand washing station, and they have begin to track how, if before we initially like 20 bar soap, finish it in 1 day due to hand washing. And now we are having like 50, now more persons are now washing their hands and they're always so. So questionnaire, focus groups, all these water point visits, you can have people that look at all of those information to verify these indicators. And then for the output, these are not all, but you want to establish water points in the community. You want to train the community leaders and volunteer on wash principles. You want to demonstrate, take demonstration campaigns on hand washing, just to see that they learn. These are the project outputs, that the things that should be there for you to achieve your goal. So this example that aligns with one of the major programmatic area of World Vision brings us to understand how the logical framework approach help you to actually plan your project, to design project. So the moment you've selected out the goal, the outcomes and all, you see the project from a different point of view. And always remember, like I said here, to need to write these goals and outcomes and output as if they've already been achieved, because and then the activities are still to be done, because when you do your reports, the reports are always in past tense. So always put them as things that have already been done. So let's quickly move on to the results framework. For the results framework now, we are actually having the results framework is now an M&E tool. When you get to the results framework, you begin to impute data. This is your baseline data, this is your target, this is your actual, what you've achieved so far out of the target, and all of that. So when you come to the results framework, you're actually putting in data. And then in cases where you are running a result-based monitoring, some donors prefer that approach where funding is released when certain results are achieved. So you don't get funding for the project all at once. When you achieve particular results, then you get funding to continue the project. So I'm going to quickly now go to one of the major discussion points of this webinar, the performance monitoring plan. So it's often developed at the outset of the project, and then it serves as a roadmap for ongoing monitoring activities. So the major thing that we do with the performance monitoring plan is to monitor monitoring activities. So it's very easy to um, confuse the performance monitoring plan with the M&E plan. The M&E plan is more, it has the evaluation component in it. But for the performance monitoring plan, it's straightforward. It focuses on monitoring. So it provides a framework for systematically collecting, analyzing, and using data to inform decision making and improve project outcome. So um, it always comes with four major components. There are a whole lot of templates and they vary from one organization to another, from one project to another. So you have to design what works for you, but you need to know that you have to have these four components in it. So your intervention logic statement, that I refer to your like your output, your outcomes, your impact statement, all of that, like what we have here, all of this on the left, the intervention logic, those statements, caregivers have reduced incidence of waterborne disease. Those are intervention logic statements. So they are statements. So they are there. You need to have your performance indicators and their definitions. Because many times, even though most organizations prefer to employ subject matter experts in their project, like getting forward vision that work on health, we prefer maybe see, let's say, a monitoring and evaluation professional who have background in public health because they'll be able to understand the meaning of indicators. But even with subject matter experts, you need to also include definitions of indicators. For example, for health indicators, there are many types of health indicators: mortality indicators, mobility indicators, behavioral risk indicators, health services indicators. So many of these indicators have definition. The definition for infant mortality and for childhood mortality are different. The definitions, one of them, I think, for maternal deaths, maternal mortality rate, it's a number per 100,000 live births, and then for infant mortality rates, sorry, by 100,000, yes, 100,000 live births, and then for infant mortality rate is the number of deaths that per 1,000 live births. So so we have proportions, we have ratios, we have different definitions for different indicators. Some of them are proportions, some of them are ratios, and also it's always good to have your logic statement and then have definitions for indicators. So anybody that comes into your performance measuring plan can easily just quickly see what's the meaning of each indicator, what each indicator promotes, and then another thing it needs to have, the third thing is your plans. You need to show your plans for data collection. Yes, and then lastly, your plans for data analysis, for data reporting, review, and news. So I have a few templates. I just listed this template. Let's see if I can get this template out and then just quickly show. Can you see my screen? Feedback. Can you see what I'm showing?
We can see the link.
Okay, you can see the link. So let me reshare. Let me reshare this. Sorry. So I wanted you to see this. I wanted you to see this. So
yes, Ifeanyi, we can see. Thank you.
Yes, so I wanted you to see this one template from one particular of that is for the main between that's Catholic Relief Services, momentum, this one of the performance monitoring plan templates, the quality performance management plan. So you will see the objective statements. We put them here. Some organizations they use strategic objective and intermediate result instead of outcomes and impact and all of that. And then you see the indicators with definitions as needed. You can also, if you have indicators that are very, maybe let's say the definitions are very trying to get the perfect word to use. The definitions are extensive, they are very long. You can decide to actually have an indicator reference sheet where you define every indicator, what they mean, how you collect the data, and all of that. But in this case, you can just define, have a column for definition of indicators. Then the next plan, like I said, the next thing you must have is your method, your plans for data collection. So let's talk about what is your method for data collection for these particular indicators. So you can be looking at, you want to collect your data from with surveys, you want to collect focus group discussion, key informative interviews, or interviews, you want to collect, look at literature. There are plenty method of data collection. So the major thing is that you have to always look at the cost and the complexity of the data collection method you intend to use. So, um, so always check what is the cost and what is the complexity of the data collection method. So if I need to collect data from 1,000 project beneficiaries or stakeholders, um, can I have focus group discussion for 1,000 of them? How many focus group discussion are we going to have? How many focus group discussion, how many manpower or human resources do we need for this focus group discussion? How much are we spending on vacations for all of this for the focus group discussion? So you may decide to now use the survey. Right, I think someone just got the question. All right. I'm going to get to you. I'm going to get to that question. But you just leave your question. So so how your data collection methods, and then the next, so you look at the cost and the complexity when choosing data collection method for indicators. Always look at the cost and the complexity, how complex it is, and against the cost. So always look for where you won't spend much, and then it won't be too complicated. You should not be, as a rule, it should not be complex and expensive, unless in very rare cases. It should always be either, if it is very complex, it should be cheap. Or if it is expensive, it should be less complex so that it will work. So the frequency in your plan for data collection, what is the frequency? You have to state, are you collecting the data for this particular indicator weekly? Are you collecting it quarterly? Are you collecting it yearly? So most times for output indicators, you collect weekly or monthly or bi-weekly. For high level indicators at outcome impact level, maybe quarterly, maybe collect maybe annually or biannually. Now, who is directly responsible for collecting the data? That would be DRI for the data. Do you hire enumerators? Is there a project manager? Is there a project member of the project team that's responsible for collecting the data? Do you go to collect it yourself? Who are the respondents? Who are these people? You can also include for data collection. Um, you can also, if you want to include cost, if you want to include how do you want to validate the data quality assessment. So are you going to be having field visits to those sites to correlate the data that you are getting? How are you going to validate the data? So you plan your data collection on the performance monitoring plan. The plan, it shows everything about how we don't collect data for every single indicator. And then we also plan how you're going to, number one, like I said, analyze the data. We are planning this type of analysis am I doing for this particular data. Is it qualitative, quantitative analysis? Is it time series? Am I comparing it? Is it comparative analysis? What type of analysis? What analysis tool are you going to be using for this particular data? So why you are making all these plans is because before you begin to monitor, ensure that everything is planned out. You don't come in after you collect data, you're struggling. What am I going to use to analyze this data now? So you know, okay, this particular data, we need SPSS, or we need NVivo, or we need Microsoft Excel. How are we putting out it? So when we want to hire team members in the monitoring and evaluation team, and you draw out your job descriptions, your plan inform the kind of skills you need on the team. When you know the kind of skills you need on the team. So maybe you want to hire someone that has experience with data collection, someone that has experience with designing data collection tools, like maybe designing questionnaire, someone that if you are going to be doing, if one of your method of data collection is a focus group discussion, possibly you want to hire a professional who has some experience in conducting focus group discussion. So this plan also determines the job descriptions we put out there. It even determines the kind of training, the kind of trainings you expose your own staff or your own MRP team or project team to. So when you've done when you use the performance monitoring plan to plan your project, to plan how you're going to monitor your project throughout the project life cycle, it has a whole lot of benefits with who you hire, the kind of training you take, the kind of skills you develop, and also the type of analysis, the data analysis tool, who is analyzing the data, how are you disaggregating the data? Because sometimes in your analysis, you want to also disaggregate. So if you have a data where you collected gender and you collected data for male, female, in settings where it's binary or in places where it's non-binary, and then there are other, for example, you always you take in you want to analyze your data based on those things. So, for example, let me say the tuberculosis project, you want to analyze the data based on those that are infected with HIV because it's one of the comorbidity and one of the risk factors for tuberculosis infection. You want to check those that are working, let me say, in pastoral areas because it's also a risk factor. You want to check those that are working in the hospital setting because tuberculosis is also an hospital-associated infection, hospital infection. So you want to have disaggregation for your indicators. Any indicator you are collecting, is there any way we are disaggregating this indicator? So if you say, for example, percentage decrease in the incidence rate of waterborne diseases. So the question is, can we disaggregate this data into the different types of waterborne diseases you have? And then, so that we want to look at, let me see, diseases like shigellosis and all of those. Trying to remember, I'm trying struggling not to confuse waterborne and water related and watershed and water-based disease, but we want to disaggregate them and then see how many persons reported for this particular disease, how many persons reported for that particular disease. So your analysis, you think about the disaggregation. In this case, it's called shotgun. Then, like I said, we are looking at how you're going to use the data you're collecting. And then that's when we talk about having a communication plan. So are you going to be putting out monthly reports or quarterly reports? Those are some of the things you consider when designing your performance monitoring and plan. So how are you going to be using it? Are you going to be using the data you collect for learning workshops, maybe post and reflect section every quarter, retrospective meeting? Are you going to be able to develop infographics maybe for the communication team to put out what's happening? What are you using? So you have to plan. So you have to think about how, as you monitor, as you collect data, analyze data, how do you use them? So you develop the communication plan for each of the indicators and for the projects. You develop, I didn't mention for data collection, the data flow map, where how does every data comes? I mean, does the data come directly to you? Does it go through some person before it gets to you? At what level? Maybe there is the municipal, or let me see, there is data first goes to the district, and then to the state, and then to the region, and all of that. So you have a data flow map. And when you use data flow map, when you are planning your data connection, so the data flow map tells you how you can collect some data at the same time and save costs. So than for you to just collect one data, instead of you to collect only data for the diseases, you can see another indicator where at the time when you're collecting this particular data, you can collect data from another indicator. So your data flow map helps you to connect all sources. Yeah, okay, this data comes from this place, this one comes from here. How do we take out this bureaucracy? How do we make this data come directly? What data collection tools? So I didn't mention that earlier, are we using? So are we using them, say, Cobalt Collect Toolbox, where you can get data and it goes to the server, using paper questionnaires, what data collection tools will you. So some of those questions are some of the things that you do on your performance measuring plan. I'd like to speed go back to the slide, but let me show if I can another template for this. Sorry about this. I said I think I could have an Excel sheet. Now let's say now here we don't give me limits and there's relation of the task name, and we try to see that so can you see this Excel? This particular Excel.
Yes, thank you, we can.
All right, thank you. So you can see here you have results. This also a performance measuring plan, monitoring plan. You have results, they have performance indicator, they have how we measure the performance indicator. So in this place, the number of cases of vaccine preventable communicable diseases. Look at the data source. In that particular one, we just talked about there was no data source. So the data flow map tells you the sources of all the data where they are coming from. This one is coming from OD, RS, this one from the whole Department of Education, and everything. So all of that method of data collection, the schedule and frequency, the person responsible. You can see here, Director of Nursing, Primary Communicable Disease Nurse, Director of Nursing, and Site Public, the reporting schedule, that's the analysis and review and reporting. So we are reporting on this data quarterly. The person that actually prepared this report is the Director of Nursing, this particular data annually, this one monthly, and all. You can see some data collection method like text message reports. You can see counts. So different things at different levels. So just remember, let me go back and share this slide. Remember this, that you need to have this essentially. You need to have this, sorry. You need to have all of this. You need to have all of this. Thus, you need to have the intervention statements and technology. You need to have the performance indicators and their definitions. You need to have your plans for data collection. So all of the data source, and also as you sit with your team, and then you can design what actually works for your context. So the reason why I just decided to share templates is because I talk about maybe what we should have, so that we are able to adapt it, just get, we are able to use the foundation and adapt to our specific content. The plans for data collection, plans for the data analysis, the reporting, the review and use of caution. That's the thing that you have on your PMP. So it's a roadmap for your monitoring activities. Always remember, the PMP is for monitoring activities. Yes. And then, so it's a plan. Even though I didn't include that in this slide, but the PMP is a plan. It's a plan like the log frame. It's a plan like the M&E plan, and it's a plan. So it's not how am I going to use it? It's not a monitoring tool. It's just how you plan your monitoring. So the monitoring tool is the performance, the indicator performance tracking table or indicator performance tracking tool. I didn't include that in this slide. I don't know if I can get my hand on one. I'm not sure now. I'll quickly try to just give an example. Maybe when I'm sending resources after the webinar. So the indicator performance tracking tool is where you now have all your periodic actuals, periodic targets, a place where you now bring all these where you create room for imputing data. If you look at the PMP, it just shows you how we are connecting the data, which is responsible and all. But the tracking tool is a place where you have a column for your targets a column for your baseline, a column for your actuals at different periods and all. So they look alike. That's why in this place, you could see that I mentioned it here, indicator performance tracking tool / PMP. The PMP is the plan for monitoring, while the indicator performance tracking tool is the tool for monitoring. Sorry, I wish that I included I was actually focusing on the plan in the slides. So the last thing I want to talk about today is the evaluation framework. So the evaluation framework is, I don't know why I called it a tool, but let's say guideline or a tool that guides and organizes the thinking of an evaluator and evaluation team. So for the evaluation framework, it's not an evaluation terms of reference. I'm going to explain that. It's not also so it's not an evaluation term of reference. The framework is different. So the evaluation terms of reference is very specific to a particular project. So, for example, in World Vision, a whole lot of projects are currently happening. And so World Vision could have their evaluation framework. That's what guides how and organize how they think about evaluation. But in conducting the evaluation, the evaluation COR for the tuberculosis project or for the WASH project or for the other program area in World Vision, I think I'm trying to talk about blindness, but I think that's one of the areas that World Vision works on. Blindness, eyesight issues, problems relating to sight. So the TOR for all of this will be different because why? Because you want to, the evaluation types will be different. You want to see something else. You want to see something different. You want to know something else. So the evaluation framework is not your TOR, but it's a guideline. One of the places where I worked in my past life, we had one that I used to develop an evaluation protocol. So the protocol, the evaluation protocol, the evaluation TOR, they're all different. So the TOR, the terms of reference is, this is what we want. The protocol is like an evaluation plan, the evaluation protocol. This is what we're going to do. But the framework is what guides our thinking, just like the PMP is what guides our thinking. So a framework should have the following. Number one, the project introduction and background. So we are not going to, in the framework, this particular section will not have all those, and it will not describe any project. It's just informing anybody that is doing an evaluation in this organization or in this place that your terms of reference or your evaluation protocol must carry the project introduction and background. So in your framework, you include things like under this section, you include things like consult the project initiation document and maybe the project documentations, and then include a brief introduction of the project, a brief background of the project. Also, you can find this in this and this and that and that on our our database or so. I just remember that I didn't talk about data storage. I'm talking about data collection. And then then you go to the next content then on the evaluation framework, evaluation purpose, the audience, and you. So you are defining, you are explaining to somebody that wants to conduct an evaluation in your organization in this framework, in this section, that okay, there are different types of evaluation. So a formative evaluation is an evaluation that looks at the project before it even begins, more like a need assessment. So you are conducting an evaluation to gather data to make decisions. So a process evaluation is an evaluation where you focus on it's an evaluation where you are focusing. Oh, my video has been off. Okay. So it's an evaluation where you are focusing on the process. So you want to check how we doing. So you want to check the process. So evaluation, process evaluations are like implementation research. They are designed like implementation research. So you want to look at, okay, we've been implementing this project in this community, and okay, let's say, for example, a malaria project. And what we do is that we actually give mosquito nets to community leaders, religious bodies to give to community members. So we want to check this process, does the net eventually get to the community members indeed? So we can conduct a process evaluation and go in and then just look at the process we are using to implement the project. What are we learning? The project process evaluation can give you feedback on what you can change, what you can improve, what you can alter, all of that. So your evaluation purpose depends on the type of evaluation. So you want to explain all the different types of evaluation in the evaluation framework. So this is formative. This is what a formative evaluation intends. This is process. This is what a process evaluation intends. This is summative. At the end of the period, this is what a summative intends to attend. This is a meta evaluation. You want to evaluate. A meta evaluation is an evaluation where you are evaluating evaluations. It's like a systematic research, systematic review, what we call it in research. So we have post-X evaluation after a project has been done 10 years or so. You want to now check, you want to evaluate a project that's very old. So you explain the different types of projects, their purpose, their audience, why, and their use. So anyone that picks your evaluation framework is able to, when that person wants to design his evaluation protocol for any of your projects, he goes through the evaluation framework and he sees, okay, for this particular evaluation, I want to design a summative evaluation. So he reads from your framework what a summative evaluation means, what is the purpose, what the audience will read, how is it used at all, and then your framework is able to now guide how you design his TOR and then his evaluation protocol. And then the next thing is the evaluation criteria and questions. So you want to explain how the different, majorly the most popular ones are relevance, sustainability, evaluation criteria like relevance, sustainability, impact. I've forgotten about 5 of them are routine evaluation criteria. So you want to explain in your framework the meaning of each of these criteria. And then you want to also provide room of, they could decide to add any other criteria, the custom criteria then, because the evaluation criteria you choose your evaluation actually determines the kind of evaluation questions you'll be asking. So if you choose, for example, you want to check relevance, you're going to be designing questions that actually try to answer the question of relevance. So, for example, let me say watch project, you are now checking how has this project benefited? That's relevance. How has this project achieved its aims? How has this project benefited the beneficiaries and all of that? So your evaluation, this section, your evaluation framework should explain all the different evaluation criteria and then possibly with examples, and then how to choose evaluation questions with examples. It should be there in evaluation framework. Now, the next thing there is methodology. So your evaluation framework wants to we want to talk about the different types of study designs in this particular section. Quasi-experimental study design, experimental study design. I want to talk about cross-sectional study design. I want to talk about different kinds of study design. So the person will look at it because the study design, if you want to do like the quasi-experimental study design, it means that you have more like a control group that you intend to use. You have a control group. So you want to use that control group to measure, to check your. So let's say, for example, there's World Vision in Papua New Guinea, there's World Vision in Australia, and then let's say the project has been done in Australia, and then you want to take the data from Australia as the control group to measure how your own project has fared. But most time, ensure that your control group are within the same range or they are similar situations. So that's a past experimental study. You have a fully experimental study involves that you are going to be collecting data from the control group as well as a non-control group. So you need to explain your methodology section needs to carry all the different study design. It needs to carry all the different method of data collection that we've talked about, explained for this focus group discussion, what are surveys, how do you, what are the, you need to talk about the different tools. You also need to talk about data ethics. So things like data protection laws for the country where you are, things like data ethics, informed consent, all those things you need to contain so that the person that actually designed a TOR or evaluation protocol from that framework is able to include all of these in their design. And you need to take the roles and the responsibilities of those that work in the evaluation. It needs to also carry the example, or let me say a template for an evaluation ability work plan. So like Gantt charts that shows, okay, we begin the evaluation by putting out a TOR, and then we define this week, we are defining the objective of the evaluation, looking at the criteria and the questions. Okay, we are collecting data between now and this, we are analyzing the data, and then we are reporting on all. Then it is to also carry a template for evaluation budget. So a template that helps whoever is designing a protocol in TOR from this particular framework is able to see a template that they can use to also put in the budget for the evaluation. So that's it about evaluation framework. I'm not able to share an example now because of non-disclosure issues, NDAs and all of that, because most times evaluation frameworks like this are actually they vary from organization to organization, number one, and then number two, the ones I've used, I don't have access to them because of those contractual issues, ethics, and then but these are the things. So you can sit down and then develop these, consult resources and all, but all of this section, and it should be clear. So whoever pick up these documents in organization or where you work is able to use these documents and design an evaluation. So the person does begin to think, um, what type of evaluation do I do? The person can quickly go to evaluation framework and see all the different types of evaluation and their purpose and audience and you, and then just, okay, I think for this particular project, I want to do a process evaluation at this time. I want to do a midline evaluation at this time. I want to do an end line evaluation, come up with the evaluation criteria. They should find a number of examples: sustainability, relevance. I'm trying to remember five, major five now. So the person is supposed to get all of those, the criteria, or just go through and see, okay, how do I frame my evaluation methodology? The person coming to design an evaluation organization should not struggle to know, okay, should I use focus group discussion? Should I use, so what is the advantage of all the data collection method? What is the advantage and what is the advantage? What does all the different study design collection tools I can use? And also the evaluation framework should provide a guide for anyone. And state roles and responsibilities, are you using enumerators? Do you need a data analyst? Do you need a data analyst? Do you need maybe a driver if you need to go to the field or plan, and then just go and fix in their own dates and their own activities, because there's a Gantt chart, like a template in the framework, and then an evaluation budget template too should be there. So that's it with evaluation for today. Thank you very much. So I'll be taking questions now. Thank you, Rosalia. I think this is the end of it for me.
Thank you, Fanny. I think there is one question that you cited. Would you like to respond to that? Or is it okay? What's the difference between MEP and M&E result framework?
I would like the person who asked this question to um, okay. I think I get it. The M&E plan and the results framework. So I think if that's correct, that's fine. So the M&E plan I wanted to mention it in this. Initially, I was thinking about mentioning it in this presentation, but because of time, they didn't want to stretch beyond time, so we could have time for the question and answer. The M&E plan has a whole lot of information beyond the result framework. The result framework is just most of the time just a sheet like the performance monitoring plan I just showed. So the result framework is an Excel sheet that allows you, let me just show the one I showed on this. I think I have one. So now let's look at this. You see, um, this this is the logic framework. So there is no any data, there is no input here. But this is a result framework. A result framework is that we can see your results. In performance track, the indicator performance tracking to where we can see your results in period. So we can have a project that for 3 years from 2024 to 2027, and on the indicator performance tracking tool, we have things like targets 2025 target 2026. That's what I was talking about in indicator performance tracking tool. We can break targets on that tool into, if it's a 1 year project, you can do periodic target Q1, periodic target Q2, periodic target Q3, periodic target Q4. You just have the target for the project, the overall target. So the result framework is a place where this actual year, maybe I was supposed to, is a tool that shows the results you've achieved so far on your project. So after intervention logic, and then, for example, percentage decrease in the incident, let's say the incidence is at 45%, that incident rate of waterborne diseases at this time among caregivers in this particular community. Now, you want in 3 years, for example, 2024, 2027, and at March 2027, already reduced it to 14, or let me say that by the end of 2027, you've reduced it to 14 instead of 12. So even though you didn't hit the target, you achieved the target by almost 90%, but then the result framework now shows us the results of your project. So this is your baseline, this is your target, this is your result. So for example, caregivers have improved, so percentage of caregivers who indicate that the water access meets their house consumption. Let's say we have 11 at the beginning, only 11 persons when we give an initial survey. Our target is to have 85 in 3 years. So after training them, after putting water points, after doing demonstration, all of that, we want to see that more people now indicates that they have water to meet their household. That's your target. So at the end of the time of the project, we discover, when we collected the data and compared, discovered that 65% of the caregivers within the community now. So it's now telling us our results. So your result framework is where you show your results for the project. So in the M&E plan, I've seen quite a number of them. Some persons include result framework in the M&E plan. Some only include the log frame. Some include the log frame and include the result framework. Some include the log frame and a link to the result framework. Some include the indicator performance tracking tool. So it differs. The M&E plan is a plan that carries all the things you'll be doing about both monitoring and evaluation. So M&E plan we have a background of the project. In the M&E plan, we have the theory of change of the project. The M&E plan, we have the logical framework of the project. It's going to have maybe the result framework of the project. The M&E plan is now going to have the performance management plan of the project. The M&E plan is going to have the evaluation protocol, evaluation and TOR of the project, all of that. So in some cases, you can have a one-pager M&E plan where all these things are actually just briefly explain, or 2 pages or 3 pages, they are just briefly explained, and then links to Excel sheets or links to different tools. Some organizations have their own M&E management systems, and links to all of those tools are included in the M&E plan. But the result framework in itself is to really show the results that you are achieving in the project. I guess that answered this question for the person that asked.
That's a very, very succinct answer. Thank you so much. I think we have a hand that's also raised, and I'm just weary of our time. So I'll just allow Kudzanai to talk, please. Please go ahead.
Yes, bye.
Okay, thank you. I think there was no option to have a microphone on, so I couldn't talk. Thank you so much, Ifeanyi, for the presentation. My question is related to one of your first slides, whereby you made reference to the theory of change as being a tool which we cannot use to monitor our projects. Now, my understanding is of the theory of change, we will also be using it to, it's a tool that we going to communicate how we are going to bring about change. So my assumption is at times maybe when we're implementing a project, we might want to see whether it's still in relation to our theory of change. And a theory of change being something which can be adaptive, it can be changed. So now you say it's not something that we can use to monitor. Maybe can you please explain more as to why we can make to the reference to the theory of change during monitoring? I think for us it guides us and needs to also validate our thinking whether we are wrong or correct.
All right, so I think this at this point. Yeah, so let me, I think I don't know, maybe I didn't put that well, or you didn't get that one of it. So what I said is that the theory of change is not, it's always a reference to. In fact, you cannot do an evaluation without looking at the theory of change. You can, and then for monitoring, the theory of change, like you said, is a live document. From time to time, as we learn, we change it. It's almost everything is a live document. What I meant is that you don't use the theory of change actively when you are monitoring. Like you don't collect data on the theory of change. You don't really you consult it. It's a reference to, that's why you always see it, like I explained lastly, in the M&E plan and all, you always see it because it's what informs how you design every other logical, all the other logic models depends on the theory of change. But you don't actually use it actively as a monitoring tool to, let's say, like to collect data. More, you don't need to host the data you collect and all of that, the way you use your indicator performance tracking tool and all of that. But of course, the theory of change, we reference the theory of change throughout, at any point where we are stuck, at any point where we have things that we've learned, you can always look at the theory of change, either during monitoring or during evaluation and all. But it's not something that you actually really use often because monitoring is quite very routine, and then the TOC is not something you use much often when doing this. I don't know that you get what I just explained. So
Yeah, yes, got. I think maybe I might have missed the earlier explanation.
yes.
I think
So
my second question also goes to the World Vision team, as to how best can we also be in the loop for upcoming webinars. I think for me it's my first time, so I really felt like I missed a lot. Or maybe if you can share with us the links, or should we submit our emails? I may not be able to attend the whole webinar. That's why I'm asking it now.
yeah, I think Rosalia will actually handle that. Sending in every resources I have to 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 the World Vision team. So I believe that if that aligns with their policy, we can share.
Thank you so much, Ifeanyi, and thank you for the question. So I'm just a little weary of time. It is about 3:20, and we have scheduled the webinar for 1.5 hours. Ifeanyi, thank you so much for your presentation. What a wonderful overview. So my apologies, I didn't give a bit of background to Ifeanyi before we started. We did share his bio on the flyer that went out, but Ifeanyi has a very, very active LinkedIn profile. So he's in amongst the top evaluation voices on LinkedIn. So please do have a look at his profile and do follow him there for more information if you're interested to reach out to him. He's also started a flagship MER Birds program and a very young and aspiring up and coming development professional with a background in public health and growing experience in program support, monitoring, evaluation, research. So just a quick overview from me about the presentation. Ifeanyi started off with where it all begins. He gave an overview of the functions of M&E, about integration. He spoke about logic model, the framework approach, and then he illustrated that with a wonderful cartoon for people like us who don't work a lot in the M&E space, but work with M&E people. So it gave us a good perspective as to how an M&E practitioner thinks about a certain question. And I put myself in the space of that. Yeah, the cartoon is saying, yeah, I'm going to go there, without considering all the other variables. So that was very interesting. Thank you for that. He went on to show us a results framework and performance monitoring plan. And he articulated the difference between the performance monitoring plan and the monitoring and evaluation plan. And I think that was quite interesting as well, because I didn't realize that, you have to have an evaluation of the evaluation. So that was something new that I learned today that I thought I'd bring up. But very interesting in the fact that, learning about evaluating an evaluation, and also the fact that how the integration, the relationship is between project design and M&E integration. So thank you so much for that, Ifeanyi, and we will definitely see you a lot more on LinkedIn. All the resources that we have in the webinar series that we are undertaking at the moment is shared on the World Vision YouTube site, World Vision Papua New Guinea YouTube site. So I will send out an email to everybody with those links of previous webinars, as well as the upcoming webinars that we'll have. But thank you so much for your time, Ifeanyi. Thank you all the participants that joined us today. Always wonderful to see people from all over the world. And this is actually the first time Ifeanyi shared on his LinkedIn profile, and we also did the same. So great to see a lot of response from people globally. So thank you for calling in and sharing, and we will avail all the resources hereafter. I think with that, we'll say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. And thank you so much. And we hope to see you in the next webinar.
All right, thank you. I really like the way you greeted everyone across time zone.
Thank you so much, Ifeanyi, and everybody have a lovely morning, afternoon, or evening.